The Democratic People's Republic of Korea might be the most ironic name in geopolitics. It's not democratic, not for the people, and definitely not a republic. So let's just call it what it actually is. North Korea. A nuclear-armed isolationist monarchy run by the Kim family that gets all the headlines from missiles, propaganda, and political death camps. Yeah, it's exactly as dystopian as it sounds, but here's the thing. North Korea isn't just one giant Orwellian nightmare. Each province and city is its own unique pocket dystopia with thousands of years of history and culture that existed way before the Kims showed up. Let's break down every province and see what makes each one special in its own twisted way. Starting with the crown jewel, Pyongyang City is the Kim family's personal Sim City project. Everything here is micromanaged by the Workers' Party, the buildings, the cars, who gets to live here, even the laws. This city exists to showcase Juche ideology, North Korea's bizarre mix of communism and nationalism that basically says Kim Il-sung saved us from colonizers, so we're destined to become perfect through self-reliance and complete loyalty to our supreme leader. That's why Pyongyang looks surprisingly modern in photos. Most of the country's money that doesn't go to nukes or Kim's luxury goods gets poured into making the capital look impressive. But nothing represents the facade better than the Ryugyong Hotel. This weird pyramid-shaped building was designed to show off North Korea's greatness, but took 25 years just to finish the exterior. It's literally an empty concrete shell. The interior was never completed because the economy collapsed. It's so embarrassing that even North Korean propaganda doesn't show it anymore. For North Koreans, though, living in Pyongyang is like winning the lottery. Only the most loyal citizens get to live in the city center with actual running water, electricity, theaters, and pools. One wrong word could land you a life sentence here, but maintaining a city of elites requires workers. About 70 to 80% of Pyongyang's population exists just to serve the 20 to 30% elite. Sound familiar? Before the Kims plastered their faces all over it, Pyongyang was actually a massive capitalism hub. The flat land supported huge populations and made it perfect for merchants trading with China. The Joseon dynasty's political elite in Seoul looked down on Pyongyang's merchants as greedy money lovers, while Pyongyang's rich merchants thought Seoul's Yangban class were snobby hypocrites who bought their goods anyway. Pyongyang became Korea's center for flashy entertainment and the country's most beautiful courtesans. The Korean War bombed all of that into oblivion, letting the Kims rebuild everything from scratch in their image. Moving to the provinces around the capital, South Pyongyang province wraps around Pyongyang and basically exists to serve it. Since entry to the capital is heavily restricted, South Pyongyang acts as the economic gateway. All materials, resources, and food from across the country flow through here, particularly Pyeongseong City, creating a surprisingly market-based economy. This region was packed with Danjus, North Korea's new capitalist class, born from the state economic's failure. When the average yearly wage is $33, Danjus are sitting on at least $100,000. They lived in luxury apartments with Chinese electronics and bribed their way into perks. People thought they'd drive change in North Korea, but Kim Jong-un saw an opportunity during COVID to crush the markets and confiscate their wealth. Now, most Danjus are just secret bank accounts for party officials. So Korean life. And North Pyongyang province has a different capitalism story. Sinoji. Location is everything here. 70% of North Korea's trade with China flows through this city right on the border. Chinese trade let Danjus smuggle goods across the river and build their fortunes on trade ships. The proximity to China gives North Pyongyang residents a special kind of torture. Freedom is literally a swim away. But defecting here is suicide because it's one of the most heavily patrolled regions in the country. Then there's Nampo City, Pyongyang's trade and port center, or as I like to call it, Kim Jong-un's illegal Amazon warehouse. Even though North Korea is sanctioned into the ground, they still maintain trade with Russia, China, and shadier groups. Kim needs his Dior handbags, Bentleys, and Omega watches somehow. The West Sea Barrage here is North Korea's most impressive infrastructure, a massive dam system that's supposed to generate power and help farming. Does it work well? Define well. Let's head north. Chagang Province is North Korea's military-industrial complex and secret weapons factory. This mountainous region hosts the munitions industry that keeps the regime armed. The terrain makes satellite surveillance difficult, which is exactly why they put weapons facilities here. It's also where a lot of North Korea's timber industry operates, though operates is generous considering the environmental devastation from deforestation. Then there's Ryonggang Province, takes the prize for most miserable place in North Korea. Mountainous, freezing, and isolated, this province is basically North Korea's Siberia. It's where political undesirables and the wrong-class citizens get exiled. Kim Il-sung used it to send Pandang Bunjas, hostile class people who needed re-education for labor, far from civilization. The region used to be a major escape route to China because the border was so badly managed. Around 70% of defectors came through Yangon. Kim Jong-un fixed that problem by cracking down hard on the border. Now, escaping is nearly impossible.
But Ryonggang isn't just a frozen prison. Hamgyongbuk Province on the eastern coast has actual cities. There's Chungcheon, the ironworking city, Simpo, the harmless fishing town that definitely doesn't build submersible ballistic missiles, and Hamhung, North Korea's second biggest city, famous for the February 8th Vinalon complex. What's Vinalon? North Korea's homegrown fabric invention, a heat-resistant textile made from their abundant coal instead of imported petroleum. The problem? Vinalon absolutely sucks. It's uncomfortable and takes 3 times more energy to produce than regular fabric. The factory's nicknamed the Zombie Factory because when it runs, the entire nearby city goes dark from the power drain. Now for something completely different. Rason City is a science experiment in capitalism at the edge of the country. Normal North Korean rules barely apply here. The party allows a full market-oriented system with foreign currency, private markets, and limited tourism. Obviously, this isn't for the people's benefit. It's to keep their friends happy. North Korea is so isolated and sanctioned that they desperately need their few allies to prevent total economic collapse. They've historically played the Soviet Union and China against each other for aid, and supporting North Korea has been China's historical pain in the ass, done purely for political leverage. Rason exists so China can make the most of it, one of Northeast Asia's rare ice-free ports that both China and Russia use. It also houses multiple casinos and the Golden Triangle Bank that definitely, totally isn't used for money laundering. Ha! Nothing suspicious at all. Shifting gears, Hwang Province is the food basket of North Korea. Not because there's amazing food culture, but because 70% of the country's food gets produced here. That sounds impressive until you realize it's still not nearly enough to feed everyone. North Korea has to import food to survive. Since controlling food supply is crucial for regime control, this historically irrelevant province now has massive importance in lots of core class loyalists. The food situation has always been bad, but the 1990s Great Famine was catastrophic. When the Soviet Union collapsed, North Korea's free food imports vanished. Plus, Kim Il-sung made spectacularly bad economic decisions in the 80s. My favorite? The 1984 flood relief aid. Seoul got hit by massive floods, and Kim offered aid just to show off and kick South Korea while they were down. To everyone's shock, South Korea accepted. Now North Korea had to send thousands of tons of food, materials, and clothes they absolutely couldn't afford, but sent anyway because Kim's pride wouldn't let him back down. Similar story with the 13th World Festival of Youth and Students, where he burned through a year's budget trying to copy the 1988 Seoul Olympics. Without money, without imports, and hit by massive floods, the famine decimated the population, losses North Korea still hasn't recovered from. Next stop, Kaesong City was the center of North-South cooperation. The Kaesong Industrial Complex was the largest joint project between the two Koreas. Why would mortal enemies work together? In the late 90s, South Korean President Kim Dae-jung launched the Sunshine Policy, basically an optimistic I-can-fix-her approach to North Korea.
The idea was to create economic ties so North Korea would choose stability with the South. At the time, North Korea was starving from the famine and desperately needed foreign currency. South Korea had its own financial crisis and needed to compete with cheap Chinese manufacturing. The complex was a political and economic win-win, built in Kaesong as a peace symbol, lowering DMZ tensions. The city actually became stable, where workers could, not starve. For South Koreans, it was one of the only places in North Korea you could actually visit. Kaesong used to be the Goryeo dynasty capital, with tons of 500-year-old heritage sites. But when North Korea restarted nuclear experiments, the complex shut down in 2016 and has been abandoned ever since. Finally, Gangwon Province, definitely one of the provinces of all time. It's full of mountains, which doesn't make it special since all of North Korea's mountains. The outlook was never great. South Korea got all the populated areas in the split. Initially, Gangwon was supposed to be a tourist destination for its beautiful nature and beaches. But a tourist destination is useless without a functioning economy or actual tourists, making the province pretty obsolete. When inter-Korean relations were briefly good, Gangwon opened for South Korean tourists, especially Mount Kumgang, one of Korea's most beautiful mountains, famous in textbooks where poets wrote about its beauty. 2 million people visited, giving Gangwon hope, which vanished when the borders shut again. Now there's basically no infrastructure, and what exists is falling apart. Weirdly, despite low urbanization, the population is high because 60% of North Korea's military does their mandatory 13-year service here. Yeah, 13 years. That's because Gangwon is close to the DMZ, the demilitarized zone that supposedly got no military presence for inter-Korean talks. Except, right outside the DMZ, both sides have massive troop concentrations staring at each other. So, there you have it. Every North Korean province is its own disaster controlled by the Kim regime. But these are real places where actual people live, something easy to forget when all we see are missile tests and propaganda. Each province has its own history, struggles, and ironies that makes North Korea's situation even more tragic than the headlines suggest.